guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome here if you're new. My name is Lauren. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and chatting beauty with me today. We are going to be testing out the new Covergirl TruBlend Matte Made Foundation. I just picked this up from the drugstore. If you haven't already seen my video from this week about how I scored $80 worth of makeup for less than 40 bucks, I will link that for you guys in the cards and also in the description box of this video if you want to check it out. Pretty fun, if I do say so myself. So I decided to buy this foundation. I've seen it all over the internet lately because CoverGirl sent out a ridiculous PR package with this entire new collection, and I have very oily skin, so I love a good matte foundation, and especially one that's affordable, so I figured why don't we give it a whirl and see how it works for me. So today I am going to be giving you my first impressions. We're going to do a demo of this foundation together and see how it applies and what my initial thoughts are, and I'm also going to be wearing it all day long so I can let you know what my thoughts are at the end of the day, how it wore. Obviously, first impressions aren't everything. I will need to wear this foundation for multiple days to really formulate an opinion on it and see how it works with other primers and whatnot. But if you're curious to hear my initial thoughts on this foundation and what my first experience with it is, then just keep on watching. Apparently the weed whacker is back. Every time I sit down to film, I feel like every time the sun is out, there are people doing yard work in my condo complex, like every single day. I just can't win. So I'm sorry for the noise. We're just gonna have to roll with it today. So this is what the foundation looks like. It comes in a glass bottle, which I do appreciate. This does have a pump, which is also amazing. Definitely way more hygienic than, you know, a bottle you have to pour your foundation out of. I hate that. You get 1 fluid ounce of product, which is pretty standard. The CoverGirl website says this retails on Amazon for $8.50. It was like 10 and change at my local Walgreens. This is the problem with drugstore makeup. It can vary in price pretty greatly depending on where you're shopping for it. So this probably will retail anywhere between $8.50 and like $11, $12 depending on where you're shopping. So one of the really cool things about this foundation is that CoverGirl released it in 40 different shades, which is amazing for a drugstore product. Most drugstore foundations don't have anywhere near the range that a high-end foundation might, although we also know some high-end brands are not so great about inclusiveness with their foundations, so. And CoverGirl did send out this ridiculous PR package to a bunch of influencers with the entire collection. I was not one of those people that got it, so I did purchase this with my own money. But looking at the swatches of the entire collection, the one thing I will say is that a lot of the shades seemed very similar. Like if you watched my shopping video from Wednesday, this is the shade M10 is what I decided to pick up, but L50 looked almost identical next to each other in the bottles, and the swatches looked very similar too, so that was a little confusing to me. Also, when you swatch the shades in order, they don't seem to go necessarily from lightest to darkest. It just seemed a little confusing when it came to trying to pick out your shade. Like, I'm glad that there are so many of them, but I feel like the whole thing could have been a little bit better executed. So formula-wise, CoverGirl describes this as a matte formula that isn't drying or cakey. TruBlend's matte made formula is developed with Flexi Hold technology that creates a strong yet flexible film on the skin for durability and comfort, while the mattifying powders absorb oil and minimize pores for a soft, matte, flawless finish that's supposed to last up to 12 hours. So we're gonna put that to the test today. I've got a lot of crap going on. I probably will end up wearing this for longer than 12 hours if I'm going to be honest, but we will see. So I'm gonna throw some primer on my skin quick. Right now, I just did my skincare. I am wearing sunscreen, so that's all that I have on my face currently. I'm gonna go in with the Cover FX Blurring Primer. I've been really enjoying this a lot. It reminds me a lot of the Makeup Forever, the Step 1 Skin Equalizer, the blurring one that they have, not the mattifying, or maybe not the smoothing, that's what it's called. It's a pore filling primer, but it's not quite as thick as Benefit Professional. Like this one has a little bit more slide to it, which reminds me of the Makeup Forever one. So yeah, I've been really liking this a lot, and I feel like it pairs pretty well with matte foundation, so we'll just slap that on there. So to test how this applies, I am going to use a sponge, my Japanesque sponge, on one half of my face, and then my Sigma F80 Kabuki brush on the other side of my face. We'll see if one side gives us more coverage, better coverage, applies more evenly. see how it goes. Hopefully the shade is a match for me. Again, as I said, I picked up the shade M10, which is Golden Natural, so fingers crossed. So I have 2 pumps here on the back of my hand. I'm going to just dot this around one side of my face, and then I'm going to pick up my sponge and we'll start blending this in. Immediately, I feel like this does have a scent to it that is kind of chemically, a little bit like paint, kind of reminiscent of the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation, if you guys remember how that one does not exactly smell super appetizing. Okay, something really weird is happening, and I don't know if you guys would be able to see this. So there's like these little balls appearing on my skin of something white that, like, as I rub it in, it's kind of disappearing, but what the heck and a half? That was really weird. All right, let me just go in and see if the same thing happens on the other side with the kabuki brush. So again, I am cutting, not as bad, but some of these like little white balls. Are these supposed to be like the powder pigments or something? Like, that's so strange. I don't know what the heck is up with that, but it's weirding me out a little bit. And is this just me, or does this look a little bit light on my skin? Which is surprising, because I went with the darker shade on purpose. Like, I almost got light 50, but I decided to get medium 10 instead. And I feel, you know, in person, the demarcation line between my face and my neck is actually not that bad, but like on camera, I feel like I look pasty as a ghost. So that is certainly strange. So coverage wise, so this was 2 pumps of foundation, just 1 layer. And I feel like the coverage is on the light medium side. Like, this is not a full coverage finish at all. I'm definitely still seeing a lot of my texture and redness through the product. I do think I like the way that it blended out with a brush better, but maybe because of those like beads that were in there, that was really strange. I don't know what was up with that. So I think what I'm going to do is go in with 1 more layer and see how that goes. And if I see the same thing, I'm gonna put 1 more pump on the back of my hand here. I'm just gonna take it directly on the sponge, start stamping that in. Yeah, okay, it is doing it again. That is so weird. Let me see if I can like zoom in closer so you guys can see what it is that I'm talking about. I turned down the lights and got you guys in super close so maybe we can see. Do you see these little dots appearing on my skin? Is that not weird? I've never had a foundation like do that before, because it's not glitter. At first that's what I thought it was. I was like, is this shimmery? It's not illuminating, but it's not. They're like these little tiny white dots. And when I rub them, do you see that? It like streaks like a powder. Like, I don't know, is that supposed to be something mattifying? But then it like makes the foundation look lighter. I'm so confused by what's happening right now. So let me go in and build up the brush side with a little bit more product as well. See, I feel like the brush, because it has more sort of friction, like you don't notice it as much because it's probably breaking those little beads, but a sponge doesn't do that. So whenever I use the sponge side, that's what's showing up. So bizarre. And I am noticing like a little bit of streakiness on the brush side. If I kind of like pat it out, it looks a little bit better. But yeah, so the coverage, I feel like it's built up a little bit. It's still kind of a more medium coverage foundation. The finish doesn't look super flat and matte. It actually looks pretty satin and natural. It still feels a little bit wet to the touch, so I'm gonna let this dry down a little bit. So I think what I'm gonna go do is put on the rest of my makeup off camera and see how that applies, and then we're gonna come back and chat again. Okay, so I haven't quite finished my makeup yet. I still need to do my eyes, but I finished the rest of my face and I have a meeting, so I wanted to check in with you guys quickly just to let you know how things are going so far. So I decided to use pretty much all other drugstore products with this look today. I put on the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in my under eyes. I set everything down with the Catrice Prime and Fine Waterproof Mattifying Powder. I have my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer on and the Sigma Aura Powder in Cor-de-Rosa. I just threw on a little bit of a lipstick, did my brows. I'm like kind of having a crazy morning, but I feel like so far, I mean, the rest of my makeup went on perfectly fine. Right now, I'm not I feel like my skin looks okay. I feel like the texture on my skin is maybe enhanced a little bit. My skin looks a little dry. I'll be really curious to see how this feels when I get off my meeting in like an hour. So right now it is 10:11 in the morning, so I've got to run for a little bit, but I will be back in about an hour. So we'll see an hour from now how this is wearing once my natural oils kind of sink in a little bit, if it's starting to look shiny, if it's staying matte. I mean, this does say it's supposed to be transfer resistant, oil-free, and mattifying. And as for the whole like white bead situation, I am still seeing them on this side of my face even though I've applied the rest of my makeup. So that's really weird. I don't know if those will go away or what that deal is. I haven't really watched other reviews of this product yet, so I have no idea if this is just me or if this is something other people have experienced, but I will keep you guys updated. I will be back in about an hour and we'll check in. And I'm back. So it is currently 11:36. I just finished up my meeting. Hopefully now I have a few more minutes to like collect my thoughts and let you guys know how I'm feeling about this foundation. The weed whacker is still whacking the weeds. Like, I swear to God, this will go on all day long. So I'm sorry for the noise. But let's get back to how this foundation is looking. So an hour later, my skin definitely looks a little bit more satiny. Some of the powdery flat matteness has definitely gone away, which usually happens with me. I have very, very oily skin, so within about the first hour of wearing any foundation, it definitely starts to take on a little bit of that dewy appearance. The real key will be like 3 or 4 hours from now, whether or not I look really, really shiny or whether or not things still are kind of in this nice satiny matte phase. So when I initially applied this foundation, I did feel like it looked a little dry. Like, I have texture on my cheeks and it was looking a little bit enhanced, but now that it's settled in, I feel like my skin does look a little bit more smooth. Things are looking nicer. I am noticing right around my chin that it is looking a little cakey and starting to break up. Also, my allergies have been a pain in the butt lately, so my nose was running, so I have rubbed off just like a little bit of the foundation around my nose. Now, this did say that it's supposed to be transfer resistant, but it obviously did rub off fairly easily. It wasn't like I was touching my nose a lot, so that's something that happens to me all the time, but I always kind of secretly hope that a foundation will stay on my nose better than it does. So why don't I give you guys like an extreme close-up so you can really see what I'm talking about the way this looks on my chin. So this is about as close as I can get before my camera is out of focus, but I don't know if you guys can see the way this is looking on my chin. I feel like it is breaking up a little bit, and then you can see how it's breaking up around my nose. But I feel like on the rest of my face, like on my forehead even, and on my cheeks, it's not looking so bad. I just feel like it is looking a little dry and breaking up a little bit in this area. Another thing I noticed, I feel like this did oxidize a little bit. I definitely see that it looks darker here along my jawline than it did before. When I first put this foundation on, it looked way lighter than I expected it to. So the fact that it oxidized doesn't bother me, since now I feel like it actually matches my skin better, but it is something to keep in mind. If when you first put it on it looks perfect, after 30 minutes or so it may look darker than it started out. So just something you might want to be aware of. So I'm definitely liking this more now than I was before, but it's not necessarily like the most beautiful foundation I've ever put on my skin. I'm feeling still pretty kind of like middle of the road about it, but definitely more positive than I was before. I am still seeing those tiny little white dots on my face, which is really, really strange. So I'm pumping this on the back of my hand and I'm feeling the texture because I wanted to know, like, is this in the foundation itself? And as I'm rubbing my hand through the foundation, like, I could feel the little beads. Like, the foundation felt gritty, so I'm not insane. That definitely is something in the foundation. There are like little tiny beads that when you rub it, they burst and they like mix in. But if you're applying your foundation with a sponge, that's not going to happen. So that's really strange to me. And as you can see, like looking at this the way that it's swatched versus how it's looking on my skin right now, you can definitely see the color is different. It's definitely a lot lighter upon first application. So it does definitely dry down darker. So I'm gonna keep wearing this foundation through the rest of the day. I will continue to check in with you guys and let you know how things are going. If I feel that it is still keeping me matte, if I start to look crazy shiny, if it starts to break up even more, I'm not going to touch up those areas that are currently looking a little less than perfect, so we can get a real feel for how this wears without a touch-up. So it's 11:43 now, so I will check in with you guys in a little bit and we'll see how things go. Hey guys, so it's 4 o'clock right now and I've got another call and then I've got dinner plans with my husband. We're going out to see a show with his parents. So I do think I want to touch up my foundation a little bit around my nose because it has rubbed off pretty significantly. Yay, allergies. So I wanted to do another check-in and kind of show you guys how things were looking. So I figured we can get in this nice sunny window and kind of look at things a little bit more up close. And honestly, I feel like through my forehead and cheeks, this foundation's still looking really good. It's mostly just like around my chin here, I feel like, and around my nose, and even right here where I have large pores, that it's starting to look kind of cakey and separated and not great. Also, I feel like my face is kind of really super itchy right now. I think it's oily and I need to blot really bad and it's driving me kind of crazy, which is also making me tempted to touch my face, and that is definitely helping to break the foundation apart. So it's been what, like 6 hours total now that I've been wearing this foundation. That's what we're looking at. I think I am gonna just blot a little bit of that oil and maybe fix some of the product that's rubbed off around my nose so that way I look nice going out tonight. And I'll do one more final check-in for you guys right before I go to bed, which should be closer to that 12-hour mark, and I'll let you know my final thoughts. So it's like 11:30 at night. I am super tired, so ready to take this foundation off and go to bed, but I need to do a final check-in and let you guys know what I thought. So since I last saw you, I feel like this foundation has held up decently well. Since I reapplied around my nose and chin, I feel like it hasn't broken up as badly as it did the first time. I definitely have a little more dew around my entire complexion than like when I first applied this foundation, but I feel like it's generally worn pretty well, especially on my forehead and my cheeks. So overall, I feel like this foundation isn't terrible. I think it actually has looked decently well for a drugstore foundation. I don't know what was up with the little white dots. That's still a mystery to me. Not a really huge fan of that. I think I would have preferred the way that this looked applied with a sponge, except for that one thing. So I don't know if you guys know the mystery of the white dots. Let us all know in the comments down below what you think that is. But yeah, I definitely needed to blot, needed to touch this up. There was no way that it was going to last on my super oily skin a full 12 hours without doing anything to it. I think we made it to like 5, 6 with it still looking okay before I needed to blot and needed to touch it up. So overall, I would say on my non-oily parts, the 12 hours was probably about right. So if you have very normal skin, you might be able to wear this for 12 hours and have it look pretty good. But if your skin's really oily like mine, you probably are going to need to touch up our powder throughout the day. Is it my favorite foundation? No, I wouldn't say that it's my favorite. Does it look terrible? No, I wouldn't say that either. I feel like it's pretty solid. I think that for around $10, it's not a bad foundation. I'm gonna continue to use this, try it out with some other primers and whatnot, and see if I have any more success. So I will keep you guys updated with how all that works out. So thank you guys again for hanging out with me today. Hopefully you found this video helpful in some way if you were also considering picking up this foundation. If you want to see more of my reviews, demos, videos like this in the future, make sure you click that subscribe button before you go. I would love to have you back for my future videos. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I hope to see you then. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.